Hello everyone, today we're building this dinosaur. There are three block variants. There's the dinosaur, and then there's a two on the number 2 there, and number 3 on the very bottom. We are going to focus today on this big dinosaur right here. 72 pieces made by Block World. It's number K19A-8. That's K19A-8. We've got instructions for each one of them. Obviously, we're going to focus on the dinosaur today. So let's go ahead and open this box up there. Tape is the hardest part. Got to do that right away. Alright, looks like we got 2 bags in there and instructions. Of course, we're going to move the instructions to the side, and let's open up the bags. Now, in the bags, like I said earlier, there are a total of 72 pieces. Each one of the pieces I've highlighted in the bottom part of the screen below, just to give you an idea of what to try to look for going forward. Alright, now that we've had a chance to look at our instructions, we're going to start on this. Let's go with piece number 1, which is pretty simple, pretty easy, which is kind of good because it eliminates a couple pieces. It won't be so easy going forward after that, but yeah, that's number 1. Number 2, a little bit more complicated. Let's just say a lot more complicated. This might actually be one of the hardest pieces to put together. If it's not, it's up there. It's got to be top 4, top 5 hardest setups to do. So let's gather all the pieces, and yeah, that's the hardest part. It's not just the amount of pieces you have to do in this one, but you got to sort through a huge pile, and there's quite a few pieces left to sort through. Obviously, the later you get doing this, the easier it becomes because there's less pieces just by process of elimination. But okay, first thing we do is we gather all the pieces, which takes a little bit of time. And okay, we've got that pretty much set. Now we just need to start assembling it there, like it shows in the picture. You see on the top right of the number 2, it shows that's what we're doing right there. We're going to put those legs together there. And you got the legs right there. Alright, now just got to put the feet on. And slowly working it there. Got that little piece there. A little sticky there. We got one set of feet. Now we just got to do the other set of feet. And then once we complete that set of feet, what we'll do is we'll put it together to the main piece in piece number 1. We'll combine those 2 pieces there. You notice on the instructions, the gray stuff is stuff you've already done, and the colored ones are stuff that you've done for that step. So step number 2, the colored ones are the ones that we've done, the feet that we're putting on right there, and the gray stuff is the existing piece that we're adding to. Now you'll notice in just a second, the stuff we did from step number 2 is going to turn gray in step number 3. And of course, now that we've completed step number 2, we can start focusing on step number 3. We're going to gather the pieces first. Step number 3 is actually one of the earlier pieces. The hardest part is just going to be connecting this together without having it break on you. It'll take a little while to get structure or get stability on this. But yeah, step number 3 is pretty easy actually compared to some of the other earlier steps. So that wraps up step number 3. We're going to move forward to step number 4. Step number 4 has a lot of moving pieces in it and a lot of different pieces we're going to have to try to find in that pile there. So it's going to take some time. That's the bad news. The good news about step number 4 is after we complete it, we will have eliminated a decent share, or increased the share of pieces that we've eliminated from the pile, which is going to make it easier to sort going forward. And like I said, the first few steps are the most difficult because you got to find it takes a little time to find each one of the pieces in the pile, and then once we can do that, it becomes easier. So let's start with assembling this notch together, and then getting that tail part going. And the tail is probably the most difficult part of this step. Now, not impossible. It just takes a little time to get going. I got some little pieces you have to put in there. And then the nice thing about the big giant square we have, which we'll do in a minute, is that giant square is going to add some stability there. There, we put it together. So it'll give us a little stability in the middle. Now we don't have stability yet in the outside of it, which we'll get later. Obviously the pieces we're putting in place are not going to give us stability, so it may give you a little problem doing that. I got the tail on, and there we have it. We got the front piece on as well. So that pretty much wraps up step number 4. The main thing is just want to make sure it's nice and tight and everything is fitting, because you don't want to fall apart later, of course. Now let's tackle step number 5. Step number 5 is one of the easier ones, except for one minor error I'll make, and you'll see in a minute. There's only 3 pieces we need for this, and yeah, so we got the first piece goes this way right there. And the second piece goes there, and then the piece on the bottom goes on the 2, not on the 3. I put it on the 3 there. I don't know if you can see all the way, but yeah, I put it on the 2 or on the 3, and it was pretty tight. And I'm like, oops! I looked at the instruction and I'm like, I got to put it on the middle of that, not number 2. So I had to take it off there. A little bit of finagling. The good news is it does fit very well, so that's kind of good. So I pounded on the back there, and yeah, that wrapped up step number 5. Now let's focus on step number 6. For me, this step was pretty easy. There was pretty much only 4 pieces I had to gather, and pretty easy to put on as well. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Just a matter of getting it nice and tight and not breaking off any legs, of course. Yeah, step 6 was one of the easier steps in this whole process of putting the dinosaur together. In step number 7, you're just gathering pieces to finish off the dinosaur body, which we have there. And the next thing, after we finish step number 7, we'll start working on the head. And the nice thing about step number 7 is it actually gives the body stability, which we didn't have in the front end of the body, so that's kind of cool. And that's the end of step number 7. Let's move forward to step number 8. In step number 8, we don't need to have the body anymore. We're building a head. So let's go ahead and start on that. Now the one mistake I make in this one is I put these 2 pieces together instead of spreading them out, which you'll see in just a minute. I'll have to take it apart. So I start out step number 9, gathering the pieces, and yeah, it takes a little time to gather. There's a few different pieces there. Gotta have them all right. And at this point, at some point I realize, oh wait, I gotta gap what I just did in step number 8. So that actually made this step take a little bit longer. As I'm gathering the pieces, getting everything put together, and oh darn, I gotta gap this. So alright, take it apart, gap it. Not too hard, but yeah, that's how you're supposed to gap it. And then put those pieces the opposite way. Make sure you get the right color, of course. And then this part was tricky. It will be tricky going forward later, as you'll see. And this is supposed to be the back side of the mouth, per se. But yeah, this is it was a challenging step. Now we're starting to make progress. We're moving on to step number 10. That little dinky piece, the first one I grabbed, is going to be a little tricky to go with. In fact, so tricky that I made it, I'd wait to do it till now. You got to try to set it right there, and then you got to use these 2 pieces to try to hold it in place. And it's kind of an important piece because it's going to hinge the head onto the dinosaur body. So very important piece to have in place. A little tricky there, right there. Now it's time to focus on piece number 11, or step number 11, and we're going to gather the pieces here for that. A lot of pieces, but it's pretty easy to gather them because we know there's not a lot of stuff left in the pile, and we're getting near the end here. So we're going to do, I actually focused on the easiest ones to put in first. Now this next one right here was kind of a pain for me. Actually, it was a really big pain. Putting it in wasn't so bad. The problem is it's only got 2 holes to hold it, and it wouldn't stick. So if I'd move some stuff around, it wouldn't have a hard time sticking. Oh, and by the way, these 2 pieces got to be on the very, very bottom. They're part of the mouth. It's a little tricky getting that in, and there'll be some pieces to make it look more like a dinosaur, but that's the start on the mouthpiece. The hinge obviously will open up on the back side. Step number 12 can be summed up as both simple and difficult. Simple in terms of gathering up the pieces. There's not many pieces to choose from in the pile. Difficult in terms of getting the 2 pieces on the bottom. As you can see, it looks easy in idea or in concept, but actually getting your fingers in there and jamming that in there without having the rest of the thing fall apart is, well, another story. Slowly working it there, and yeah, now we just got to get this other piece right here. Okay, lost a piece. All right, found that piece. All right, you got to put it back on. That's the one piece I was talking about earlier that was kind of a little bit of a pain because it wouldn't stay on. Had some problems with it. Hopefully, it works better for you. But hey, there we got the last piece in, and that's the easiest of it. And of course, we're one step closer to putting this thing together. All right, we're getting closer to the end. We're on step number 13 here. And yeah, this one's not too bad in terms of concept. Just pretty much a few pieces to do. This one's going to have to go in first. Can be a little bit tricky, but yeah, just because of the angle and stuff. But the nice thing is once you'll have the head in place, the head looks really cool, which we'll see later. And just got to put these 2 pieces in right there. And try to get a tight fit if we can. And that was, again, the problem. I had that 1 piece sticking. Alright, step number 14, we got 3 horns to put on. The tricky part is just going to be to try to be able to jam them in there so they don't come out, and try to make sure you put them in the direction on the instruction so it looks right when you get to see it. And yeah, once we get that in, we'll have the head portion complete, and all we'll need to do is attach it together. Again, that piece fell out again. So yeah, now all we've got to do is take the head and hook it on the hinge spot I was talking about earlier, and voila, we have a dinosaur. Head doesn't move a ton, but the mouth will open a little bit, which is kind of neat. Yeah, we got a dinosaur there. All we need to do is do the decals. Now, if you'll notice, you look through the instructions, there's really nothing on decals. So in order to be able to figure out where to put them, you can either do some guesswork, which I'm doing because I've assembled some other ones, or there's another way you can do it, which makes it a little bit easier to figure out which goes where, and that is to basically get out the box and look for areas where you think there's a sticker. Some of them are pretty obvious, some of them are not. But you get one at a time and start working your way down and go by process of elimination. So you can see I found the easiest ones right there. We're going to hit those first. And then, of course, work our way down the list. But yeah, you got to look at the box and try to see where stickers are. And then, figure out a way to get them on. And these things are pretty sticky, so you got to be careful and try to make sure you get them in the right spot if you can. I try to look at the box as best I can to do that. Use that as a guide, of course, because it's it's not in the instructions. It's not in the instructions, but yeah. Stickers can be a little challenging, especially this little tiny one up front here. You kind of got to slowly finagle your way onto that. That one I ended up having to redo when I took the head off later. It was a little tricky to get it in there because of all the pieces, but yeah, this looks pretty sweet when you get done with it. It looks pretty sweet. Stickers were a little bit of time consuming, but it has a lot of decals and stuff, which is nice. As you can see, as it makes it look like a nice big dinosaur. Yeah, and of course that wraps this up. I am signing out. Thank you for watching.